Welcome learners, we are in the class of Bachelor of Library and Information Science for Knowledge Classification, and in this class today we are going to discuss the structure and principles of colon classification 7th edition. In this class we shall cover the basic principles of colon classification, the structure of colon classification 7th edition, and the notational system of colon classification 7th edition, different types of basic subject as treated in this edition, and fundamental categories and other components also. The 7th edition of colon classification, hereinafter we will mention it as CC7, is published in 1987. The mold of this edition was developed in 1967 by Dr. S.R. Ranganathan, and it was planned to be published in 1971. The bibliographical description of colon classification 7th edition, which was published in 1987, is given here. Colon classification by Dr. S.R. Ranganathan, edition 7, basic and depth version, revised and edited by Gopinath, Bangalore, and it was published by Sharoda Ranganathan, Endowment for Library Science, and currently we have in our hand volume 1, schedules for classification, containing preliminary pages 14 and main pages 332, and its size is A4 size. 2 additional volumes including 1 index volume and 1 worked out examples were planned to publish, but it did not happen. CC7 is a freely faceted scheme for classification. There is no rigid predetermined facet formula for the compound subjects going with a basic subject. It is also an analytical-synthetic classification, as the sequences of the facets of a compound subject are determined with some basic and guiding postulates and principles applicable to any compound subject whatever. This is essentially a dictionary with a few rules of grammar prefixed to it. It is considered as a bilingual dictionary. One language is English, a natural language, and the other language is an artificial language of ordinal numbers. The schedules have been expanded in such a way that it can be used in both for 6th and 7th edition. Typology of subjects, isolates and speciators are provided in 7th edition. Next, let us discuss about the nature of colon classification 7th edition. It is a freely faceted classification scheme where there is no rigid predetermined facet formula for the compound subjects going with a basic subject. There is nothing rigid either in the number or in the succession of facets. In a freely faceted scheme for classification, without any influence or inhibition by the existing schedules for classification, whatever facets occur in a compound subject are all found out by the facet analysis of that subject. The appropriate sequence of the facets found out is then determined according to stated postulates and principles. The facet terms are arranged in that sequence. Then each facet term is replaced by its facet number. Finally, the facet numbers are synthesized into the class number with the aid of the appropriate connecting digits. Thus, each compound subject determines its own facets, that is, facet ideas, facet terms, facet numbers, and class numbers. It also determines its own facet sequence. Everything is free That is why the scheme is called freely faceted classification. Colon classification appeared as a freely faceted classification since its fourth edition. In a rigidly faceted scheme for classification, the facets and their sequence are predetermined for all the subjects going with a basic class. Colon classification edition 1, edition 2 and edition 3 had given a facet formula for each basic class. The facet formula amounted to predetermining the special isolate facets eligible for use and compulsorily to be used in the compound subjects going along with the basic subject. This amounted to a rigidity and cluttering of indicator digits. For example, in the third edition of colon classification, the facet formula for engineering was D, then work, then second work, D, engineering, work, colon, secondary work, colon, part, colon, engineering problem. As in that edition, the only connecting symbol was colon. Thus, we may get the class number for design of electrical engineering as D66 colon 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 4, as the required isolates in the facets were absent in that particular title. Therefore, the cluttering of indicator digit of colon is occurring, and it gives a clumsy look and violates the law of parsimony. Colon classification is also an analytical-synthetic classification scheme. In view of the analysis and the synthesis figuring successively in the course of classification, it is regarded as analytico-synthetic classification. As the sequence of the facets of a compound subject are determined in accordance with some basic postulates and principles applicable to any compound subject, whatever, it is called analytico-synthetic classification. And here it may be emphasized that any faceted classification is not analytico-synthetic unless it is freely faceted. Now we discuss the basic considerations to use colon classification 7th edition. It is a freely faceted classification system which has greater resilience than an almost faceted classification or a rigidly faceted classification system. Irrespective of one major discomfort of lack of an index, the study of the following features of CC7 will be helpful in building class numbers with it, such as 3 planes of work, general and specific rules, also the normative principles of classifications, notational system, different types of main and non-main basic subjects and their adjunct subjects and agglomerations, with brief introduction, scope and coverage of those subjects in some cases, and schedules of basic subjects, 5 fundamental categories with necessary variants and their manifestations in different rounds and levels and facets and foci, common, special, compound isolates and speciators, common schedules, devices for forming and sharpening isolates, phase relations. These aspects are to be studied for synthesizing class number with colon classification 7th edition. As we know, only the volume 1 of colon classification 7th edition was published. There are 5 parts in volume 1. In part A, we get introduction. Part B deals with guidance to the beginner. Part C covers general rules. Part D covers general divisions and common isolates. And part E covers special isolates. Part A contains a note on history and different version of the colon classification. Part B covers practical tips on classifying documents. The steps for practical classification is also illustrated. Part C contains general rules of the colon classification to construct a class number. It is the most essential part of the book to learn the theory and practice of colon classification. And part D explains different kinds of basic subjects and contains schedule of some common isolates which are equally applicable in different subjects. Part E, it has been first divided into different basic subjects, and each basic subject contains a schedule of special isolates systematically enumerated under fundamental categories. Now, the first thing to be done by a beginner is to browse through the schedules in chapter DB, traditional main subjects, and also DD, the basic subjects and partial comprehensions. And there is also one chapter on subject bundles, that is in DE. The learners are required to be acquainted with the common schedules, each for language isolates in chapter DG, time isolates chapter DH, space isolates in chapter DJ, and also the schedules for common isolates such as common energy isolates in chapter DK, common matter property isolates chapter DL, common personality isolate chapter DM, and anteriorizing common isolates in chapter DN. Learners should also know the environment division in chapter CS and chapter DD. Simple examples of using the schedules are also given in chapter BB and BC. The text of part A may not be quite meaningful to the beginner. Its chapters may therefore be studied after gaining some experience in practical classification. It will take a little time and effort to become familiar with the schedule in part D and E, and particularly so with the rules wherever they are given, and expertise may be achieved by practice only. Chapter BB and BC show the steps of practical classification. In chapter DC, as we have said, traditional main subjects are enumerated. The 26 traditional main subjects, including mysticism and spiritual experience, are given in CC7, and in this chapter the rules for postulated list and the sequence of these subjects are delineated. In traditional main subject, we get such basic subjects in natural sciences, humanities, and social science. Under the natural sciences, we get mathematics, physics, engineering, chemistry, technology, biology, geology, botany, agriculture, zoology, medicine, and useful arts. Humanities cover mysticism and spiritual experience, and fine arts and literature, linguistics, religion, philosophy, and psychology. Education, geography, history, political science, economics, sociology, law are the basic subjects under the agglomeration social sciences. In chapter DE, we get a long schedule of basic subjects where the traditional basic subject along with the adjunct basic subjects are enumerated. Under adjunct basic subjects, there are newly emerged main subject, systems subject, specials basic subject, canonical basic subject, and compound basic subjects, with the traditional basic subjects are given. Part E solely covers special isolates under different basic subjects. Here we present the chapters under which a particular basic subject comes with their notation, and in some cases we see here there are adjunct subjects are also given, such as in zoology in the chapter EK, and its adjunct subject is animal husbandry with the same chapter. Or again, some adjunct subjects may get separate chapters also, such as after the chapter ET education, we get another chapter on educational psychology under ETUS. Now we discuss the notational system of colon classification, 7th edition. The total number of substantive digits used in the notational system is 60. And within this, the species of digits used in the notational system of CC is 6. The notational system has a mixed base. It consists of 60 substantive digits and 14 indicator digits, in total 74 digits. The substantive digits include 23 Roman smalls except I, L and O, 10 Indo-Arabic numerals 0 and 1 to 9, 26 Roman capitals, that is capital A to capital Z, excluding I and O, except when used to represent the main subject or basic subject, botany and literature respectively. And the substantive digits also include one Greek letter delta. In a notational system, some digits may be semantically rich, some may not be. Semantically rich digits are those digits each of which represents one or other substantial idea and thus has substantial meaning. In the notational system of CC7, all the digits except 0 and 9 and the indicator digits are semantically rich digits with specific scope and explanations in some cases. For this, you may see chapter CK. In notational system of colon classification 7th edition, the total number of indicator digits used in the notational system of CC is 14. These are grouped into ordinary indicator digits and digits with anteriorizing value. Under the ordinary indicator digits, we may have starter and arrestor bracket together, used together as parenthesis, comma, ampersand, single inverted comma, hyphen, equal to, dot, colon, semicolon, forward arrow and plus symbol. We use parenthesis for subject device. Comma is used for personality facet, ampersand denotes phase relation and single inverted comma is used for time facet, hyphen is used to form compound isolate, equal to is also used to form compound isolate with speciated kind 2 and dot is used for space facet, colon is used to denote energy facet, semicolon is used to denote matter facet and all its variants, arrow is used to join 2 points of time in time facet and plus symbol is used to connect two components in alphabetical device. The anteriorizing indicator digits such as asterisk is used to work as agglomerate, double inverted comma is used to denote anteriorizing common isolate. Next, in the notational system, in colon classification 7th edition, we may experience several newly emerging subjects and many other subjects may emerge in future. To give notation to accommodate those newly emerging subjects or newly emerging isolates in the existing scheme of classification and to provide notation for those newly emerging subjects or isolates, colon classification 7th edition uses emptying digits and emptying digits. What is emptying digits? In the notational plane, it is necessary to interpolate the newly emerging subjects or isolates with their appropriate notation. For this, the digits capital T, capital V and capital X are postulated as emptying digits. That is, each of these digits implies the preceding digit of its semantic richness. Here, L denotes medicine and M denotes useful art and pharmacognosy is denoted by LX. So, X is used here as emptying digit for emptying LX for giving a room for pharmacognosy. And what is emptying digit? To make infinity of interpolation possible, each of the digits of capital U, W and Y is postulated to be emptying digits. Here we show one example. LU5 is public health, then LU6 hospital, LU7 sanatorium, LUX medical jurisprudence, then comes M useful art. Here U itself is empty digit and making empty L for accommodating other subjects or for interpolating other subjects in between the existing subjects. Another useful indication in the notational system of colon classification 7th edition is zone and sector in notational plane. Zone in an array, the range in an array in the notational plane in which each first digit is either 0 or starter bracket or otherwise of one of the same species, be it digit digit or the first digit of a quasi-digit is denoted by the term zone. In general, there are 5 zones in an array. Zone 1 or zone A is capital Z to A read as zone A. In this way, we get zone 0, zone 1, zone capital A and packeted zone. And for details, you can consult chapter CL. And what is sector in an array? The range within a zone of an array consisting of one rich digit only, or of a quasi-digit with one empty digit, or of a quasi-digit with two empty digits, and so on, is denoted by the term sector. There may be 66 sectors in an array. The formation of sectors in an array in the notational plane is denoted by the term sector notation. You can see chapter CL for a detailed study of zone and sector in the notational plane in CC 7th edition. Another important concern for practicing colon classification is the concept of subject. In general, subject may be categorized as basic subject, compound subject and complex subject. Basic subject is a subject without any isolate idea as a component. The first division of universe of knowledge is into basic subject. It is a nucleus of every subject, and no subject can be without, and it is the nucleus of every subject, and no subject can exist without this, that is the basic subject. They depend on the consensus on the contemporary knowledge as viewed by historians, philosophers, educationists and scientists. Compound subject is a subject with a basic subject and one or more isolate ideas as components, such as agriculture of rice in India in 1870. Here the basic subject is agriculture, and rice, India, 1870 are the isolate ideas that goes with this basic subject agriculture. Complex subject is a subject formed by coupling two subjects, may be basic or compound. The exposition of the first is in some way limited by the second, such as general relation between economics and sociology. This is a complex subject. Again, economics for statisticians, economics influenced by political factors. Now, what are the different types of basic subjects as treated in colon classification 7th edition? Basic subject here may be grouped into main basic subject and non-main basic subject, and also compound basic subject, subject bundle, partial comprehension, and main basic subject may be grouped as traditional main subject, fused main subject, distilled main subject, and non-main basic subject may again be covered as canonical basic subject, special basic subject, environmental basic subject and system basic subject. With a traditional basic subject, if other type of main or non-main subjects are grouped, those are considered as adjunct subjects. Now, in each of these basic subjects, we may have different components, those are called isolates, and these isolates or those components may be categorized in different fundamental categories. According to the postulate of fundamental category by Ranganathan, there are 5 and only 5 fundamental categories. These are personality, matter, energy, space and time. In colon classification 7th edition, matter category may be again in different variants such as matter property, matter method and matter material. Other than the basic subjects and the concept of fundamental categories, we also have to study the concept of isolate ideas. In isolate ideas may be again grouped as common isolate idea, special isolate idea, compound isolate idea, quasi isolate idea and speciator. Now, how these components ideas for classification by colon classification may be used. Colon classification 7th edition gives some hints. As we know, colon classification is a freely faceted and analytical-synthetic classification. In order to get comprehensive analysis of compound subjects in the increasing complexities of analysis and synthesis of subjects, it gives some hints for components, ideas involved in the facet and subject analysis, in the facet and sub-facet analysis. Chapter DA provides such a checklist to help classifiers to consistently recognize the components ideas in a subject. It is shown in the following table as obtained from chapter DA. If the component is any field of study, it is to be taken from schedule of basic subjects such as computer science, astrophysics, or if it is a theory or system, it is also to be taken from the schedule of basic subjects. As for example, quantum theory, Ayurvedic system. If such components occur in extra-normal environment, schedule of basic subjects and schedule of environment isolates are to be considered, such as industrial medicine, marine biology. Then if there is any special restriction, then also we may consider the schedule of basic subjects such as child medicine, female medicine, and in case of an object of study, appropriate schedule of special personality isolates under respective basic subjects are to be considered. As for example, temperature forecasting, interstellar space. Again, if a speciated to object of study is considered as the components, then appropriate schedule of special personality isolates under the respective basic subjects are to be consulted, such as wooden tables, beautiful buildings. In case of the properties of any object, we have to consult common property isolates and special property isolates listed in respective basic subjects, and examples may be cited here as density, mortality. Again, the components of any subject is a action on the objects. The common action schedules and special action schedules are to be consulted. We may take as example analysis, diagnosis, and then speciators to action. It may be steps in action, attributes in action, method of performing action, agent of action, instruments of action. All such type of speciators we may obtain from special schedule of speciators to action listed in the respective basic subjects. If the components in a subject is a space component, space isolate, common schedule of space isolates are to be considered. And if a speciators to space is present, then schedule of speciators listed in the common schedule of space isolates are to be consulted, such as climatic zones. In case of time components in a subject, common schedules of time isolates are to be consulted, and if it is a speciator to time isolate, then schedule of speciator listed in the common schedule of time isolates are to be consulted. Another concern in practicing colon classification 7th edition is the use of different types of devices. These may be chronological device, geographical device, subject device, alphabetical device, enumeration device, numerical device, favored category device, mnemonic device, classic device. In CC 6th edition, there was superimposition device, which is not used here, the superimposition device, but we can explain experience the concept of superimposition device in forming compound isolates. Another concern is for formation of complex subjects and the relation between two or more subjects or relation between two or more isolate ideas which may form complex subjects or idea complex. We shall see that there are 6 types of relation which may occur between different subjects or different isolate ideas to form the complex subject or idea complex. Such kinds of relations may be general phase relation, bias phase relation, comparison phase relation, difference phase relation, tools phase relation and influence phase relation. Here also we are presenting the notation for different types of phase relation in between two subjects or in between the isolates within a facet or in between two isolates within an array of a facet, what different types of notations are to be used, and with this the indicator digit of phase relation, the ampersand, must precede the notation for different types of phase relation whenever we shall construct the class number. So here we discuss different aspect and structure of colon classification 7th edition, particularly with respect to synthesizing class number with colon classification 7th edition. Colon classification is a scheme of analytico-synthetic classification and it is a fully faceted classification scheme. In this class today we have discussed the structure of colon classification 7th edition, particularly of volume 1, as subsequent volumes were not published. We have discussed the traditional main subjects, the schedule of the basic subject and different types of subjects as dealt with in colon classification 7th edition, such as main basic subject, non-main basic subjects and compound subjects, subject bundles, partial comprehensions and their fundamental categories are also been covered. We have also gave an idea of isolate ideas, devices. These all concepts will help you in practicing classification with colon classification 7th edition. And as colon classification 7th edition is a fully faceted classification schemes, we must have knowledge of different subjects and their isolate ideas and different devices to use different isolates and their notations. These will help you in assigning class numbers with colon classification 7th edition for any document. And this is all for today's class. Thank you.